Hey, boys and girls, we're in the home stretch, right? We only have a little bit left of these lessons. So today we're going to jump into lesson 25, okay? And you're going to be pretty familiar with some of the basics of this lesson. I just realized I'm wearing two different earrings. Wow, Miss Chase, good job. Anywho, so this lesson is called Explore Fractions as Tenths and Hundredths, okay? So the target or the goal is to be able to express or show a fraction with the denominator of 10 as an equivalent fraction to one with a denominator of 100, okay? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this. I have two visuals here, okay? This is showing you tenths, right? This grid is broken into 10 bars, okay? This one is our classic 100 chart that we see very often. That's broken into 100 squares, right? So I'm telling you that this first one is showing you 7 tenths, okay? Remember, this bar could also mean out of, so it's like saying we're seeing 7 out of 10. Remember, the denominator is telling you how many equal parts there are, and the numerator is telling you how many of those parts are shaded, okay? So there's 10 equal parts here, and 7 are shaded. I'm just going to double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Then I'm telling you that this one is showing you 70 hundredths, or some might say 70 out of 100. Okay? So that means there's 100 equal parts and 70 are shaded. If I want to check this, I know that there's 10 in each of these lines, right? So I can count by tens to check. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, right? Do you notice, boys and girls, the way I put these on top of each other? I want you to be able to see they are the same, okay? 7 tenths is equal to 70 hundredths. So I'm over here, I'm saying, why is that? I know when I'm finding equivalent fractions, I have to multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same thing, right? So what am I multiplying 7 tenths by to get to 70 hundredths? So it's like a puzzle. I have to ask myself, 7 times what is 70? Well, I know 7 times 10 is 70. Whatever you do to the top, you must do to the bottom. So let's see if that works. Is 10 times 10 100? Yes, it sure is. So all they did was multiply by 10 to be able to find its equivalent fraction. These are nice, boys and girls, because they're nice, easy numbers, okay? I just want to show you one more example. So right here, I'm using these magnet ones that you guys are pretty familiar with. So I showed down here 5 tenths, right? There's 5 of these bars of 10. We know this is a long, it represents 10. Then there's also 10 cubes in the long, right? So if I look at it in the hundredths chart, and I put my line down here, which is equivalent to my 5 tenths, this is showing 50 hundredths. How do I know that 5 tenths is equal to 50 hundredths? Because when I multiply my numerator and my denominator by the same thing, I can get this. So 5 times what is 50? Same thing as we did before. 5 times 10 is 50. Whatever I do to the top, I must do to the bottom. Let me check my work. Is 10 times 10 100? Sure is. So that's how I know that 5 tenths is equivalent to 50 hundredths. Do you see how the only difference, guys, is that we're tacking on an extra 0 here? If I took away this 0 and this 0, I would have 5 tenths, okay? So this is pretty simple. All right, so now that I've introduced it, I want you guys to open up to page 519 of your book. Pause me if you need a minute to open up. It's going to take a minute to set up. So 519, because we just went over the family letter. All right, and this problem is about Doss, okay? So Doss rides his bike home. He has 7/10 of a mile left to ride. Write an equivalent fraction to show how far Das has left to ride in hundredths of a mile. Okay, so first of all, he's starting off with 7/10. Don't be messed up because it wrote it in word form, okay? I know 7/10 is going to look like 7/10, right? And so it's saying, what is that equivalent to if we're talking about hundredths instead of tenths? So I'm going to need to do 7/10 times what equals something with a denominator of 100. Okay? So now I need to solve my puzzle. 10 times what is 100? I want everyone to memorize. 10 times 10 is 100. Okay? Everyone should know that. 10 times 10 is 100. Say it to yourself a few times. So I know 10 has to go here. Whatever I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. So now I'm going to multiply 7 times 10. I hope everyone knows their tens tables, right? These ones are easy to memorize. And if you don't, you can count by 10 7 times. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, right? So that's going to equal 70, okay? So that means that 7/10 is equal to 70 hundredths. This makes sense to me because if I literally just cover up this 0, it's the same thing, okay? And so I want to make sure I put a unit on this because 70 hundredths of what? I need to write miles. All right? Okay, next part is on 520. Oops. So, actually going to put up both these papers so they go together. All right, so we're on 520. We're looking here. It says, look back. Explain how you could use multiplication to find a fraction with a denominator of 100 that is equivalent to 7/10. Okay, so we just did this, right? What did we multiply by? We had to multiply by 10 over 10. So let's just rewrite what we wrote on the first page. 7/10 times 10 over 10 equals 70 hundredths. Okay? Please write that. All right. Next part is a little repetitive here. We kind of talked about this already, but it's asking us, it says, every fraction with a denominator of 10 can be written as a fraction with a denominator of 100. The model to the right is divided into 10 equal parts, or tenths. How many parts are shaded? So how many tenths are shaded here? You could count on your own. You kind of know. It's 7. So we're just going to write 7 for 7/10. And it's asking here, there are 100 equal parts. How many hundredths are shaded? Remember, guys, I'm never going to go through and count 1, 2, 3. Take me forever, right? If I wasn't sure, I can count by tens because I know that always in a hundreds chart, these bars are all 10. So I could do 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So that means there's 70 hundredths. Okay? So if we complete this fraction over here, it says complete the equation to show a fraction with a denominator of 100. That's equivalent to 7/10. So what did they do here to fill in this little fraction? It's kind of showing you in a different way. So it's still multiplying by your 10 over 10, but it's showing you you can put it on the same fraction bar, okay? So we're still going to pop in 10 over 10. I want you to understand that this is the same thing that we did here. All they're doing is extending this bar and putting the multiplication on the top and the bottom, okay? It's the same thing. You don't have to change your work, but I just want to show you that. So now when we multiply by 10 over here, they already did 10 times 10 is 100. So we just need to do 7 times 10, we know is 70. Okay? Now it's talking about how can we think of this as money? Okay? So it says 1 dime is equal to how many cents? A dime is worth 10 cents. Okay? So we have 10 cents. So that's equal to how many out of 100 of a dollar? So we know a dollar is worth 100 cents. So 1 dime is worth 10 out of 100, right? 10 out of 100. So if we're thinking about, if we had this hundreds grid and we're just thinking about 10, that's the same thing as 1/10, correct? Those would line up perfectly. So instead of saying 10 hundredths, we could also say 1/10, okay? So down here, 1 dime is 1/10 of a dollar. So that means 1/10 is equal to 10 100ths. This makes sense to me because if I took away these last 2 zeros, I'm going to have the same exact fraction, right? So for this reflect part, we kind of just talked about it. So I'm going to just skip over it, okay? So let's take a look on page 521. I'm going to skip that first grid, and we're going to jump down to problem number 2 on the bottom. We're going to have 2 more problems here today. Okay. So it says, write 7/10 and 7/100 as fractions. Tell me how the 2 fractions are alike and how they're different, okay? So, we're really obsessed with the 7 today. So I need to write 7/10. 7/10. And then I need to write 7/100. So 7/100. How are they alike and different? You don't need to write this all out, but let's just think about it. So what is the same about them? They have the same numerator, right? The tops, the numerators, are the same. What is different? They have different denominators, right? This is 10 and this is 100. So that would not be showing the same thing, right? 7/10 would go all the way to here, right? This whole part of the hundredths thing. 7/10 would go all the way to here. If we're talking about just 7/100, we're just talking about 7 little cubes on this chart, okay? Remember that the bar also means out of, so sometimes I can help you think about it. Like if you had 7 out of 10, that's going to be more than if you had 7 out of 100, okay? All right, last problem. Let's take a look at problem number 3. It says, Akiko jogs to the park. She has 6/10 of a mile left to jog. Write an equivalent fraction to show how far Akiko has left to jog in hundredths of a mile. Okay, so what do we know so far? We know that she has 6/10 of a mile left. So we're going to write 6/10. It's asking us, what is that equivalent to in hundredths? So what we need to do is multiply this fraction by something that's going to give us something with a denominator of 100, okay? Now, we all have memorized that 10 times what is 100? 10 times 10 is 100, right, guys? 10 times 10 is 100. So whatever I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. I'm going to put that up here. 6 times 10. So if I had 6 10 times, I'm going to have 60, right? Everyone should really be memorizing those tens tables because you don't want to go to 5th grade without knowing that. So that means 6/10 is equivalent to 60 hundredths of milk left in the carton, of giraffes roaming out of the zoo, of a mile. Okay? All right, guys, so that's going to be it for your math lesson today. Have a good one.